we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming.
Bring it up at the final interview after they already like you. I'm like, can you imagine how you would feel if you were interviewing and you really needed someone full-time and then they just said, oh, by the way, I have to be part-time?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name is Emma. I'm a radio journalist who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you all the tips, tricks and behind-the-scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey Em, and welcome back to this week's podcast episode, everyone. It's time for our favourite part of the podcast, our Shoot Your Shot shout out. This is where we celebrate you, our listeners, who've gone out there, shot your shot and landed some big or little wins in your job search. This week we're shouting out Tricia.
Yes, Tricia bought us 6 coffees and said, "Hi Sarah and Emma, oh my God, where do I even begin? It's been my lifelong dream to live in the mountains. So 2024 was the year my husband and I made the decision to move across the country to Colorado. This meant I needed to quit my comfy corporate job where I'd been for the past 6 years and find something new. I went into the job hunt very confident because I have amazing experience and I thought my resume spoke for itself. I thought getting interviews would be a piece of cake. Boy, was I wrong. With 28% of the American population looking for jobs right now, I literally picked the worst time to quit with no other job lined up. We moved in August, but I proactively started applying for jobs in January. I didn't get a single interview until July. Yikes. By September, I was extremely discouraged and terrified that I would have to take a significant step back in my career that I'd worked so hard for. Your podcast was the one thing that kept me going and made me feel better. Anytime I had anxiety, I'd listen to an episode and felt more reassured. At this point, I've listened to almost every episode. Finally, I secured 2 interviews in the same week with 2 companies. We'll call them Company 1 and 2. Neither job was my dream job, but at this point I was getting desperate and I definitely had to take my dream job off a pedestal. Company 1 was easy breezy. The interviewer didn't ask me a single question, but I was sure to interrupt him so I could tell him my best bits. He was thoroughly impressed. Company 2 was more intense. They made me prepare a 10-minute presentation using 3 Excel sheets of data where I had to give them a sales pitch. My audience was the VP of sales and 3 directors. I was absolutely terrified and froze several times throughout the presentation, but I nailed the tell me about yourself part, which I had been practicing for the past 8 months, and every normal interview question. I even had them laughing throughout the interview with my jokes. I told them I was nervous because I cared about this job, lol. At the end of the interview process, Company 1 offered me a job with my preferred salary, and Company 2 told me that I didn't get the job I'd applied for, but they liked me so much that they asked if I would interview for a different role. So thanks to you guys, I knew exactly how to play my power move. I told Company 2 that they needed to interview me and offer the job within 1 week because I already had another offer. They ultimately told me they couldn't meet my timeline, so I thanked them for their consideration and took the offer at Company 1. Even though Company 2 was my preferred company, I'm so happy to have a job. The contract has been signed. The bonus is that I ended on great terms with the HR team at Company 2, and they told me they'd let me know if another role opens up. Seriously though, you girls have been my job hunt besties. Your advice is incredible and has literally kept me sane in the most insane point of my life. Before I quit my old job, I sent your podcast to all of my co-workers and told them to shoot their shot as my famous last words. I'm forever grateful to you and will be a lifelong listener regardless if I have a job or not. Honestly, I'm just here for the life updates and comic relief. Thank you for all you do, Tricia.
Oh, Tricia, like what a good student. And I have to say at the end, I love the idea that you quit your job and you send like an all company email and you're like, I'm out of here, suckers. If you want to leave too, here's a link. You just like, peace out. Bye.
This is my final gift to you, my colleagues. Godspeed.
That's so incredible. But like, the power move and her being really at peace with, hey, company 2 wasn't going to move as quick. Like, imagine she'd turned down the first offer and then company 2 were like, oh, we like you for this other role. And then she still didn't get that one and she's left with nothing. Like, I love this for you, Tricia. You needed to lock something in and you're in a great position. And who knows, in a year's time, in 6 months' time or something like that, things might have changed and something else might come up and you're able to kind of move across to where you really want to be. But as you said, job searching in a really difficult time to land something that you're really happy with. Love that.
I love that it wasn't a perfect at the end and wrapped up nicely. Like, she's like, so then the company quickly offered it to secure it. It didn't work out, but that's good because that gave her the closure to go, I can fully take this job knowing this is all there is and I'm happy with it and it's okay.
Yeah. Versus not asking, can you fast track it? And then trying to juggle the two. Imagine, like, she could have lost both. And all of the interview tips, like interrupting interviewer to say, like, he didn't actually ask any questions and she still got her best bits in there. I love that so much.
Determined. I love it, Tricia.
She's listened to all our episodes, so I really, really hope she hears this. Tricia, you are incredible. Congratulations and enjoy your beautiful new life in the mountains.
If you need a little bit of help to land a great job in this tricky climate like Tricia, you can check out Sarah's one-on-one interview coaching sessions or the Interview Academy at our website. 2 very different kinds of help, both extremely valuable. The Interview Academy is more on demand. You can start at any time. It doesn't matter what Sarah's availability is. It is step-by-step prep to come up with your best bits and feel extremely prepared for your interviews. Whereas if you have something really specific that you want help with, the one-on-one sessions might be more valuable.
Yeah. And I grabbed a little snippet because I wanted to share with people rather than hearing from us about the Interview Academy. Here's what someone who completed the Interview Academy said about it. This is from Carrie. She said she loved the career story and the best bits the most. Those were 2 areas that she struggled with, and she said, thank you for breaking it down. I feel so much more confident. They are 2 whole modules of the Academy, and there's so much detail on each of them. So I love that worked. That's exactly what it's for. Now, if you liked one of our episodes, you used one of our tips, or you want to request an episode specifically on your situation, follow us, like us, whatever you need to do on whatever platform, and then slide into our DMs, and you could be that person next week. Now, this episode is from precisely that kind of a situation. We are giving a little shout out to Joanne, who wrote us a message, and she had a bit of a dilemma about asking for part-time when she's applying for jobs. So, Em, what did Joanne say to us?
She said, hi there, I've just come across your podcast as I'm on the move in my role. I've applied for a role and have got an interview coming up on Friday. It was a really quick turnaround. I was wondering if by any chance you could give some advice on how to ask for the role to be considered part-time. It was advertised as full-time, but at the bottom encouraged those seeking part-time to apply. I believe this was their inclusion and diversity statement. I've only just come back to the field post-maternity leave and my current role is too far from home now with 2 young kids. It's a 2-hour commute in Melbourne traffic one way. That is brutal. So I've gone back part-time and am searching for part-time work, but there isn't much out there. This role is ideal. It's close to home, in my field that I'm passionate about, and is with the government in a primary school. Any advice on how to bring up the part-time issue during the interview without getting an instant no?
Yes, and she said, I would appreciate any advice. So we are going to talk about a couple of things. Firstly, what to say if you're open to full-time or you're transitioning to full-time, like eventually. Then what to say if you only want part-time. We're going to talk about how to highlight your flexibility and why you might still get a no. So let's dive into it.
So it obviously depends on whether you're open to full-time or not as to how you would bring it up, because if it's a hard no, you never ever want to work full-time. That's very different to saying, hey, for the next year while my kid is in daycare, I really need to be part-time, but longer term, I'd love to go full-time and really grow in this career.
Yes, completely. And I also think if it's a job that's been advertised as, hey, we're open to both, then you don't need to necessarily disclose up front or like very first thing that you talk about it. But if it's a job that's been advertised as full-time, they're kind of expecting that you know that going in and you're going to have to be the one that says that it's something different. Does that kind of make sense? Like, they're not going to ask you, are you okay with it being full-time? Because they're kind of assuming that that's already been done by you applying for the job, right? So we just want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. Like, I get that you want to get an opportunity to have that conversation. And so I'm okay with people applying for jobs that say that they need someone full-time, but I'm not okay with you like bringing it up at the last interview or when they offer you the job or something like that. Like, I've seen that recommended in places where it's like, bring it up at the final interview after they already like you. I'm like, oh, can you imagine how you would feel if you were interviewing and you really needed someone full-time and then they just said, oh, by the way, I have to be part-time? You'd be a bit frustrated. And even if you would be willing to consider it, it's that feeling that we've talked about before of like, you don't want to surprise them. Surprises are a bad thing the further you get in the process.
Interview Academy might be the perfect thing you're looking for. Interview Academy is a course Sarah has been working on after delivering hundreds of interview coaching sessions and getting incredible results.
But unfortunately, I'm only one gal living in an Aussie time zone who works a day job, and all of that mean I can't help everyone one-on-one, which drove me crazy.
So for over a year, Sarah's been working on turning all of those amazing lessons into an on-demand, step-by-step interview prep course. We hold your hand through the entire thing,
and you can do it at home in your own time and get instant access right now. Check it out at interviewboss.com.au/interview-academy. The link is in the show notes. So if you were potentially open to being full-time and maybe it's like you're transitioning back, or it's like you really would prefer part-time, but you could probably squeeze full-time if you really had to for the right job. Does that kind of make sense? Like, if we're in that kind of 4 days, I could maybe do 5
close
at
to
a
the
stretch.
primary school, it's in government, it ticks all the other boxes.
That's right, yeah. You could say something like at the end of the interview. Does that make sense? So like, you've done your intro, you've gone through all the questions, and they say, oh, have you got any questions for us? And at the end, you can kind of say, I'm transitioning back into the workforce after taking some time off for parental leave. And ideally, I'm looking to work 4 days a week for the first 6 months to transition back in. Is that something that you'd be open to in this role? Like, that can work really well. Or ideally, I'm looking to work school hours, or ideally, I'm looking to work 1 hour less per day, something like that. Like, if you've got almost full-time availability, I think it's okay to leave it to the end of the interview until you mention it, because you're kind of okay with it not working that way.
But on the other hand, if you definitely only want part-time, non-negotiable, we don't want to leave it until the end to ask a question. You want to mention it straight away. We don't want to surprise them. So where could we work this in?
I think it goes in your tell me about yourself. It's the same place that you'd put anything else, like, oh, I'm relocating, or anything else that you want to be upfront about and tell them about. So at the end, after you talk about why you're interested in the role and you've done your whole career story, this kind of would slot in at the end. Here's a bit of an example. I know the role was advertised as full-time, but I noticed that it also mentioned that you offer some flexibility. Ideally, I'm looking to work 3 days a week. So that's at the end after you've said, oh, I'm really interested in this role. I'm looking for something that's closer to home. I've got plenty of administration experience. This looks like it really fits with what I'm after. And I know the role was advertised as full-time, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of where you would finish.
Seamless. Then they know it right up front.
They can ask you questions about it. You can discuss it.
Would they have to give an answer here, or if they feel kind of a bit put on the spot, could they say something like, oh, we'll get back to you or think about it? Or because could it depend on how you go in the interview? Like, if you blow them away, they might be like, oh, maybe we'll see if we can pull some strings.
Totally. And that's kind of what you're doing. You're not even actually asking a question there. It's, I'm looking to work this many days a week. You're kind of saying, here's me. Here's all the things that I've done. Here's my career. And I'm looking for 3 days a week. I'm looking for 4 days a week. I'm looking for a school hours job. Then they can kind of consider you as a candidate the rest of the interview. They can ask different questions about it. They can ask what days you're available, what times. They can just think about it and discuss it afterwards and ask you something afterwards. Like, all of that is fine because you've been able to state, here's what my ideal scenario is. And they know up front, if that is a deal breaker, then they know that up front and they can discuss it then, or they can cut the interview short. They're not getting carried away thinking, blah, 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 here's all these things. Oh, we've got to completely change tack when you've dropped a bomb on us at the end. I think that works really, really well. You're still there already. Like, you've still got an opportunity to answer all the interview questions well. You just don't want to throw in a big curveball at the end. You could also consider discussing if there's any flexibility in the schedule that you're looking for. So let's say you do want to work 3 days a week, but you do have maybe some care available. You have got a bit of a more flexible schedule. And if you had some notice, you could shuffle those days around. You could do something else more than those 3 days. So you could mention that. If you're open to which days of the week, you could say, look, I'm looking to work 3 days a week, but I'm open to how that's arranged. Like, I think throw in there any parts of that could be more flexible for them to make it work for them, to work around you, is going to be really helpful for them to consider, could this actually work? Could we actually make this happen? If you're looking to work school hours, you can mention that. Sometimes that can be easier to accommodate depending on what kind of job it is, because it means that even though you've got someone there the same amount of hours each week, you've got coverage every day. So if there's like tasks that need to be done daily, you can do that and you're just kind of like working reduced hours in the middle of the day. If you could like come in early, stay late, you could do extra days in peak times occasionally. Does that kind of make sense? Like, you could mention that, hey, on the 3 days I'm here, my kids are with my parents or with my partner, so that I don't actually have set pickup times, so I can actually stay back occasionally, or I can shuffle my days around if I need to. Like, I think it's worth throwing in there if you've got any of these areas that you can be extra flexible, particularly when you're trying to get them on board with making a role part-time that isn't already part-time. You want them to kind of be imagining like, oh, that could be a solution to when we have X, Y, Z.
I think it's really elite to offer doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday as your part-time days, so that there's not consecutive days in a row that you're not there. It kind of feels like no catastrophes could pile up in that time because it's only ever one day that I'm not here, and that seems like a good compromise.
Yeah, I do often think like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule is sometimes tough for that reason, because if something comes up on Thursday morning, it's like, oh, we can't deal with this until Monday. Like, it's 2 days and the whole weekend and it's going to be Monday. Like, that can be really tough depending on, again, what you're dealing with. If they're just tasks that can be done whenever, then that's not going to matter. But if they're in that environment where things need to be actioned within a day or within a day or two, maybe spreading your days out, like you could do a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Obviously, this depends on whether this is possible for you. I'm not saying just because you've got your care days locked in, it's not possible. I just think because you're trying to convince them to consider part-time, any ways in which you can flex out of that set schedule, you should mention.
Now, this last point is important to come to terms with. You can't control if it's an instant no or not.
Yes.
You're just presenting your case, saying what you're looking for, and the company could be looking for a completely different thing and it doesn't align, and that's fine, and that's completely within their right. So we're doing all we can to set up the request for success, to be flexible and accommodating and be upfront straight away. But what happens beyond that is simply out of our control.
Yeah, totally. And it also might just be the nature of the role or the requirement or the team. They might already have some part-timers they're working around. I don't know. There could be heaps of reasons why this role has to be full-time. Now, the inclusivity thing is a good sign, obviously. I love that we've looked for that in the ad in Joanne's example, that it's actually mentioned, hey, still apply if you're looking for part-time. But it could just be the default thing that's written on all jobs and it's just always there. And maybe for this one, it's not relevant, or maybe it is. You don't know. The bonus for them, it being part-time, is that it's less cost for the company. So there is a real genuine thing on your side. They might be able to save that budget and put it into something else if they hire someone part-time.
Especially when a job that was previously done full-time is being done part-time. We recently had someone resign and just a casual junior is kind of filling in, and they're getting all the work done in 5 hours. So they've just been doing that job every day for 5 hours. And so it's like, well, before people probably would have argued that definitely needed to be a full-time job, but now they're kind of being like, well, does it? It's kind of working.
Yes, exactly. And you can be like, hey, we're saving on that role. We could put that budget into something else. It can be a great thing. And also, I've seen this so many times where as a recruiter or talking to a hiring manager, I've actually said to them, hey, we're struggling to fill this role. We're struggling to get people applying, or we want to really make sure that we get someone great for this role. I say to them, have we considered offering it part-time? Could it be done part-time? And obviously I'm not mentioning that every time because in some cases, certain roles don't work as well. And then they go, oh, I'd never thought about that. Yeah, I guess it could. It could be done this many days a week, or it could be done school hours, or it could be done whatever. So even before we've thought of any candidates. So there's just often a case that they just haven't even asked anyone the question of, can it be done part-time? Like, I want to plant that seed that you should shoot your shot. As much as we're talking here about all the things that might not go your way, I just don't want you to take it personally. But shooting your shot, go for it. They may just have never thought about it and be like, oh, actually, why not?
In saying that, you don't want to go into overdrive trying to talk them into giving you part-time, because if the workplace or the team isn't set up really to do it, do you really want to be the guinea pig and set up to fail in the part-time gig?
Yes. This is what I think about when people are like, oh, but how do I convince them? I'm a bit like, you don't want to convince them. You don't want to talk them into it. You want to raise the idea and have them be like, oh, yeah, actually, that could work. And if they're not, you don't want to be like, oh, but what about this? But what about this? I could do this. I could do this. And then they finally like begrudgingly take you on part-time. And then it's like always a point of contention of like, oh, you know, we wish we had someone full-time, or you kind of feel like you can't have any time off because you're already working part-time, you know, like imagine that, like you're working 4 days a week and they're like, oh, you need an extra day off. You already have 1 day off a week. You're like, I still get leave. I still get sick. So you don't want to talk them into it. You want to see if you can suggest it and they pick it up. But other than that, don't try too hard.
So there you go, Joanne. I hope that helped you, and I hope it also helped many other people who probably have found themselves in this conundrum just like Joanne. Some things to consider.
Yes, great things to consider. Thanks so much for listening to Interview Boss. If you like hearing the sound of our Aussie accents and our sister vibes, hit that follow button in Apple or Spotify, or better yet, tell someone else about the show. Maybe mass forward it to your colleagues when you leave. That's how we can hit the charts, so we can help even more people and bring you even more incredible episodes. For more advice, inspiration, and some savable, helpful content, follow us on Instagram at Interview Boss. Can you believe we are in our 3rd season of Interview Boss?
Not really. It's crazy. But that means there are over 90 episodes we've made.
Oh my God. Scrolling through all of our episode titles, you might miss an episode that actually is exactly what you're looking for.
Yes, we get so many messages of people asking us to do an episode on something, and we're like, we already have. So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are best suited to you. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, and job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
Yes, and we even have a playlist for if you have an interview like tomorrow and you need just our most recommended episodes, just the ones you really need between now and then.
Exactly. It is all there for you. You can browse by category. Check out the playlist at www.interviewboss.com.au/podcast.